All right, Nick, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. A lot of great stuff going on this offseason for the Raiders. Obviously, brought in a lot of good front office staff, have a new quarterback on the team. Everything is looking good, but it's seeming the Raiders are not done yet. There are more moves to be made, and this latest report out of Las Vegas is very interesting. Raiders fans will love to hear this one. But before we get into that, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, the Raiders do not seem to be done quite yet with making big moves. There's seemingly another move potentially the Raiders are gearing up to make in the draft. Let's get into this article and we'll talk more about it on the other side. This, of course, is from over on Pro Football Network, and it says, according to Victor Fur of The Athletic, the Raiders may be eyeing a rookie passer, not pass rusher, a passer to develop behind Smith and potentially trading third year quarterback Aiden O'Connell in the process. Still bringing in a young quarterback to learn behind Smith makes sense, and we think the Raiders might trade Aiden O'Connell on draft weekend, DeFore wrote in his April 11th Raiders mail blog column. It says new minority owner Tom Brady likes the idea of rookie quarterbacks sitting and soaking it all in, and there are some interesting options, even what's considered by some to be a down year, quote unquote, draft for quarterbacks. I think this is a very interesting thought process here. Obviously, we know Brady sat behind, Drew Bledsoe for a while. He learned a lot. We've seen a lot of great quarterbacks sit behind, veterans and learn some things. So I think Geno Smith would be the perfect guy for someone to sit behind. But that doesn't really end here. I think this all kind of is extrapolated, and there's more information on the move about a team that is not the Raiders that kind of makes it make sense as far as what the Raiders are doing and maybe what they're actually eyeing here. So we flip now to this other tweet we have about the New Orleans Saints saying DraftKings has the Saints at minus 130 favorites to pick Shadur Sanders. The Steelers are next at plus 350. The Saints have the ninth overall pick, but the real question is whether they'll be leapfrogged by someone drafting behind them and whether they'll move higher to keep that from happening. I think this is something else we've talked about just a few days ago. That this is something that's going on. The Saints are really looking to move up, and I think this really puts the Raiders in a very good position. The Raiders, they wanting a quarterback to sit and develop behind Geno Smith. That means they don't have to go out round one and get someone like in the top 10 type of quarterback. Where they're sitting right now is not necessarily a position where they need to go and grab a quarterback, but it lines them up perfectly to trade back, get some extra capital from the Saints, and potentially move backwards and find that quarterback later on in the draft, whether it be later in the first, whether it's round two, whether it's round three. There's endless potential here if they like a guy that's more developmental to sit behind Geno Smith. I think this all makes a lot of sense and is very interesting for the Raiders. Curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick. But before we get to you, Raiders fans, in the comment section below, let us know on this whole situation. What do you think about this plan of potentially drafting a rookie quarterback this year and having him sit behind Geno Smith for a few years to develop? Do you think it's necessary? Do you think that's the way the future is to let quarterbacks sit behind the veterans? Or do you think you'd rather wait until you get to the opportunity where you can go and draft a guy that's going to play day one? Let us know what your thoughts are on quarterback strategy and the next, heir apparent to this Raiders team in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest out of Las Vegas?
I think it's become clear when you look at this report that you highlighted, and of course, the fact that the Saints are all in on getting Shadur Sanders based on the odds, based on the reporting. They're looking to trade up. The Raiders have a chance here to trade back, pick up much draft capital, and exactly like you said, pick up a quarterback in the later rounds and have him sit behind Geno Smith, right? You won't take a quarterback in the top 10 right after you give Geno Smith his extension and his deal. It's a team-friendly deal, right? So it's not like the Raiders are tied to Smith like the Browns are tied or were tied to Deshaun Watson for so many years with so much high cap dollars. But it still is a lot of money just through at Geno Smith. You don't want to use a top 10 pick to kind of have another guy to spend all that capital, salary cap on Smith, and a top 10 draft pick at one position. That's not a good strategy. And what the Raiders are planning do here, I think is the really, really smart move, especially when you consider the success of teams that follow this strategy going back the past 25 years. In fact, let's pull up this first graph here. I think it's very interesting. So this is again over the last 25 years, the Super Bowl wins based on your rookie year performance or playing time. So this first chart here, you can see we've got the red is the quarterbacks, winning quarterbacks, quarterbacks who won a Super Bowl, who didn't start week one. That's about 84% of the 25 of the last 25 years. And the quarterbacks who started week one, we're looking at just 16%. So you can clear undeniably so. Quarterbacks who didn't start week one have won the vast majority of Super Bowls going back the past 25 years. What does this mean? It means that sometimes the best thing for a quarterback is to take time, to wait, to learn the scheme, not be thrown under the fire. In fact, if you go into our second chart here, it gets even more interesting. This is Super Bowl wins based on rookie year playing time, same concept as the first graph, but this time it's breaking it down players as a rookie quarterback who played more than half their games, that's in blue, or less than half their games for rookie year, that's in red. And it is still heavily weighted to the fact that the majority of quarterbacks who won Super Bowls over the past 25 years were quarterbacks who played less than half their games their rookie year, which means they sat, they learned, they watched, they developed. Even if you remove the Tom Brady factor and his 7 championships, it's still dead even, right? So that even if you get rid of the Tom Brady weighting in this metric right here, there is still no statistical evidence that drafting and playing a quarterback early means you're more likely to win a title. In fact, there is none. It's dead even. There's nothing to be gained from that. If you factor in Tom Brady, it's heavily weighted to waiting and letting your quarterback develop. And I think that's what the Raiders are going to do here. And it's the right move to make. I'm actually kind of disappointed in myself that I didn't see this coming. This was the play all along, right? You get Geno Smith, you get your veteran. Now you look for your opportunities to get a potential quarterback to develop in later rounds while trading back from 6 to get extra draft capital. I mean, this is just perfect team building. This is exactly what you're looking for if you're a Raiders fan. And if you're looking for your long-term quarterback, here's a name to look out for. And Miles, I'm really curious what your thoughts are on this guy. Will Howard out of Ohio State. I think it's very interesting. Howard's a guy who's made a lot of news recently with a lot of confident statements. He's got a good mental acuity to him. He's got good leadership traits. Does he have the best physical talent in the world? Not even close, but he's only a winner. He's hyper competitive. Remind you of anybody? Kind of like old number 12, who's now a minority owner for the Raiders. So I think right now Las Vegas is going to make this big trade. I think it's a matter of if not when, matter of when, not if, excuse me, my personal opinion here with the Saints to pick up this extra draft capital and likely draft Will Howard sometime in the 3rd to 5th round range. I think is when they're going to get him. They're going to ride with Geno Smith and then try and see if Howard can become their long-term answer.
Yeah, Nick, I think this is like you said, it makes a lot of sense, and I think the names that bounce around in this football world are, the three guys I see tied to the Raiders as far as this story goes is Jalen Milroe, it's Quinn Ewers, and it's Will Howard. I think Will Howard is my personal favorite of the three. I think he's like more athletically gifted than Quinn Ewers. Obviously, is a more talented thrower or more accurate thrower than Jalen Milroe. I think there's a lot of blend in all three guys there as far as what they bring to the table. But I think when you think about what the Raiders want and who they want, who they're structuring this team, it seems like the kind of guy they want is a Will Howard type guy. Geno Smith is a very, talented athletic quarterback, but he's not a big time scrambler. He's not a guy that's going to make, 60, 70-yard runs with his legs. They want a guy that's an efficient pocket passer. He's got a little bit of athleticism to them as well. And I think Tom Brady, in his own image, wants a guy kind of like a Will Howard. I think when you look at everything, that's the key here. I think we talk about Tom Brady, what he's bringing to this team makes a lot of sense here. Will Howard is a guy I like there, but overall, just the whole plan, like you said, we've been talking about what are the Raiders going to do? What are the Raiders going to do? It's been, this kind of has flown over everybody's heads. The whole time they've been planning a move just like this. Say, hey, let's get our veteran guy in here because we want to draft a quarterback and have them develop. We don't sit behind a guy that we think is capable, smart, and a great leader, a great mentor for a young quarterback. Draft our guy, then bring him in and do exactly, basically what was done to Tom Brady. And we all know how successful that was. And we've seen it. You brought up the graphs. We've seen it happen in the last couple of years. Quarterbacks that sat, guys like Jordan Love, come out and look really good. They've had time to develop. They've had time to be the quarterback that they were meant to be. So I think overall, this plan by the Raiders now to get this quarterback Very good plan. It's all starting to make sense. I think you said perfectly on draft night. It's not a matter of if, it's just when they're going to trade with the Saints, trade back. Saints are looking like they want to trade up, get Shador Sanders. Raiders get that extra draft capital, make themselves in a great opportunity to get the quarterback they want and build this team for the future.
Yeah, let's give a lot of credit, whether it's Brady, whether it's Spytech, whether it's Carroll, whether it's Davis, who cares? Whether it's the whole group, it probably was a collective effort. Is this was all part of a plan, and it all has to still be executed. Of course, we think it's going to happen, and now has to officially get done. But I think it will. And whether they trade back with the Saints or whether they get Gianti at number 6 and then get a quarterback like Howard in the 4th round later or something like that, this was all part of the plan for the Raiders. And again, this is what we've seen from Las Vegas this entire offseason, and we've covered it numerous times. The Raiders are taking the winning approach. They're all about winning games now, becoming a better, stabler franchise, more stable franchise, both sides of the football, leadership, coaching staff, veterans, front office, smart people. Brady's a winner, of course, bringing in a winning culture across the entire board. And now they're going to look about developing long-term quarterback. This is the way. This is how it works. Eagles, this is what they did. Chiefs, this is what they did, right? This is the model. The Packers, like you brought up with Jordan Love, that's what they've done. The model for long-term success is exactly what the Raiders are doing. It doesn't really look like it at times because it seems like there's a few moves that are a little all over the map if you just kind of look at them just as individual events. But if you take the entire picture together, it's clear the Raiders are making a lot of really great decisions. It's part of a master strategy. And I think when this deal gets done with the Saints, I think a lot of people, especially in the media, will be like, oh my gosh, the Raiders are making just a complete turnaround. We're going to be looking at the Raiders this offseason, 2025 offseason, the same way we look at the Lions offseasons 3 or 4 years ago and how quickly they turn things around into a contender. The Raiders are following that exact same track. And Las Vegas fans, Raider Nation, you guys should be really excited about that.